time to talk about childcare. The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives released a report yesterday that has many parents of young children talking. The report tracked progress being made on the federal government's Canada-wide early learning and childcare plan, and just 6 provinces, including PEI and the territories, are meeting that target. The plan, announced in 2021, promised daycare at an average cost of $10 a day for all families. The findings are mixed, to say the least. While some fees have dropped substantially in some cities, actual childcare fees have risen in Nova Scotia. Kenya Thompson is a coordinator of Care Now Nova Scotia, and she joins us this morning. Good morning, Kenya.
Morning.
So I understand that Nova Scotia hasn't seen any fee reductions in 2.5 years. Any idea how far we are away from the $10 a day target?
We're a long ways away, but well, we're kind of close if you consider that families aren't going to be able to necessarily access a space when the fees are going to drop. So when we think about $10 per day, what that means is that childcare is going to be available at the goal is to have it available at a cost of like an average of $10 per day. And since there are so few spaces across the province, so many families struggle to find childcare, we will be able to meet that average, but families aren't going to really feel the benefits of this program necessarily in April.
Interesting. So, okay, I want to dig into this a little bit. So we're on track to meet the $10 a day target, but if so few parents can meet that target, so what is the issue? Why are there so few childcare spaces in Nova Scotia?
There's so few childcare spaces because frankly, the province isn't kind of putting in that initial investment that's so needed to build a system. You know, we've had this patchwork system, market of childcare where, you know, our families, especially in rural and remote communities, that this report that we're talking about today doesn't address. So many folks in those communities don't have childcare spaces. And so the province just needs to make that really initial, really substantial upfront investment to build this system, to create, you know, public spaces. And yeah, they haven't really done that at the rate that they need to.
Okay. Now, is it a case of comparing for-profit centres to non-profit centres? Does that factor into this situation?
Yeah, so Nova Scotia is committed to building a nonprofit system of early learning and childcare. And so that means that any center that's involved in the program that's going to adhere to the $10 per day target is a nonprofit center, and the province can take the lead in building public spaces that are nonprofit. And so we see Nova Scotia has done some really cool things in terms of using like existing public infrastructure, like universities and hospitals to create more spaces. And we can do that. Like Nova Scotia can continue to do that. And so we need to push the province to make those initial investments so that families can access childcare and enjoy this program that will change lives. And especially as, amidst the cost of living crisis, it'll have a huge impact on families to be able to access affordable care.
For sure. So in the situation right now where families are waiting a long time for a spot for childcare, how is that impacting the well-being of children and families?
It has a huge impact. It's, having access to childcare means that you have access to, women are able to enter the workforce. This Canada-wide early learning and childcare plan came about, in 2021 when we saw female labor force participation rates tank as, kids were being taken out of school and childcare centers were being, closed, or folks weren't able to, access those all the time. We know that it's often women, it's often moms who have to take time away from school when, their childcare plans fall through. And, in addition to just eroding savings because, childcare costs can be really steep. And so, the impacts are profound, but so can the, benefits of a reliable public system of childcare that families can rely on.
All right, before we go, Kenya, any advice for parents who might be stuck without childcare in the meantime? Any advice on what they can do?
Just do your best to try and find childcare. Unfortunately, it's so many families know how difficult it is, but I think the one thing that I would advise folks to do is not lose hope in this Canada-wide early learning and childcare plan, because we know that the benefits are so great, and that once these initial investments are made, once these spaces are created, it's going to have just incredible results for families, children for generations. So it's a really worthy upfront investment, and it's worth continuing to believe in.
All right, well, Kenya, thank you so much for your time this morning, and keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
That was Kenya joining us this morning, talking about childcare in Nova Scotia and the lack thereof. We're going to take a break and be back with more CTV Morning Live right after this.